Undefeated published a column called The Humbling of Cam Newton, and the column suggests that race played a huge role in Cam Newton signing for just over $1 million and hardly garnering any attention from other teams in the league. It continued saying, quote, "There's no explanation for such a small contract for a once transcendent talent other than a league of mostly white executives viewing Newton as not worth the headache, a reputation Newton has not earned." Fox Sports NFL analyst Michael Vick joining us now. Mike, good to have you. It has been way too long, and I want to start with you. How big of a role do you believe racism played in the lack of interest in Cam Newton?
I don't think race played a big role in this. I think this was more so about Cam and his ability to not be on the field the last 2 years. When I think about his transition, going through the injuries and trying to work through it, I think about my 2-year hiatus, going through that transition and trying to work through it. And when I came back, I didn't expect a lot. I knew I had to go out and earn everything that I wanted. I didn't expect a $10 million contract. I didn't expect a $30 million contract. I knew because I had to be evaluated in short order that was going to be the telltale sign of how, I was perceived and what team I would go to, what money I would get, and will I play as soon as I wanted to play. This is just a transition period for Cam, and I think it's going to help him more than it hurt him. Maturity-wise, a chance to step back, look at his career, 9 years with the Panthers. What can I do moving forward? He's in a great spot with the New England Patriots. If it all goes well, Cam could be the long-term answer in New England. So I don't think race played a part of it. I think it was more so about the injury and being skeptical of what he could do coming back. Is he going to be the same? Got to evaluate him. And that's just the long and short of it.
But here's the thing, though, Mike. You do realize that Peyton Manning missed 19 months, had neck fusion surgery. Many of the doctors, even the coach team doctor, flunked him on the physicals. A lot of doctors would not pass him. He got $58 million to sign. Drew Brees ripped his arm out the socket. The Miami Dolphins flunked him on the physical. He got 6 years, $60 million with $10 million signing bonus. You see what we're seeing here, Mike, and I'm not saying, and I told Skip, I don't believe race was the predominant or the overwhelming factor, but I believe there is, because when you look at it, how many times do you think that these general managers and owners, they ask white quarterbacks, do you got a tattoo? You have any piercings? Good, keep it that way. Dez Bryant, how many white players you think have ever been asked in a meeting, is your mom a prostitute? You see, it's undeniable. It's the elephant in the room, Mike. We don't like to talk about it, but we got to have these uncomfortable conversations. I can assure you, there has not been a general manager or player personnel director that has ever asked a white quarterback whether his mom was a prostitute. You see, the thing is, from the time the inception of football in 1919, with the Acme Packers, until 1968, there were no black quarterbacks. Marlon Briscoe with the Denver Broncos. You see, when they say act like a quarterback, what are they telling you to act like, Mike? Because that's the only thing. Huh?
Nah, that was pretty much, going back to the Marlon Briscoe days and the first black quarterbacks to ever enter the league. Oh, yeah, it was definitely a different standard that we had to live up to. And, the way we had to be, the way we had to walk and be perceived, in terms of us getting that shot on the field. We had to be squeaky clean. We had to be perfect. That it wasn't the norm. It wasn't ideal. I had a high school coach tell me that, this world was very political. If you're going to play the quarterback position, then, you have to look a certain way. You have to act a certain way. Part of the reason I made the comments when, I was ignorant to the fact of what was going on with Kaepernick and, in terms of him kneeling, I didn't understand he was doing it for a certain cause. I was looking at it, the fact that he had an afro, and from what I've been told and taught, this is the way you have to look, similar to, walking in the courtroom. You want to be at your best, appearance-wise, in order to make the judge, try to give you a lighter sentence. It's something that we was just told or taught. And, like I said, I don't feel like, that played a part, because when I think about Cam, I think about production. I think about, the injuries. I think about him having to come from that. But it just didn't resonate with me that race played a part in this. And, I don't know what goes on in, the general managers, rooms when they're talking or when they're discussing players. I haven't had to witness that or be a part of that. I know some guys have. It's very unfortunate, but that's what we're trying to transition from, as a country right now. We are work in progress, and I won't sit and speak on that because I think things are different from Cam in this situation currently.
So, Michael, go one cut deeper with us here, because this Undefeated article we're discussing had a line in it that says, Michael Vick rubbed white America the wrong way long before Bad News Kennels. So,
absolutely, I read that.
Okay, so help us out. Early in your Atlanta experience, did you feel sort of racial backlash? And again, you weren't nearly as sort of demonstrative as Cam is.
Flamboyant.
Flamboyant. You didn't celebrate the way Cam does. Maybe you didn't exactly dress and look the part of the upstanding white quarterback, but did you feel any backlash in those early years in Atlanta?
Well, I felt a lot of backlash just from my play. When I think about those times, I think about the games that we lost, and then I was the one getting blamed for losing those games. I was more upset about that, whether it came from a black person or white person, than anything. My play meant everything to me. Everything outside of that, I didn't see. Whether I was stereotyped because my pants was baggy or my shirt was
the Fat Farm and FUBU, Mike. I remember
the Fat Farm, FUBU, the RP55, all that shit. I could care less. I could care less about that. It didn't bother me. And maybe it was because of the conversations that stemmed from, the conversations I had with my coaches when I was young. And, I just put football before anything outside of that. I wasn't worried about my parents or what people thought about me. I could only be me. And when I read that article, I was very disturbed because I was like, I hadn't done anything up until what happened with Bad News Kennels to make people look at me a different way. I was the face of the franchise. Mm-hmm. I was the face of the National Football League, and I was very young and immature at the time, but I embraced that. That meant something to me. So I tried to walk that fine line because I was always trying to set examples for the next generation to come after me. That's all.
So the criticism you didn't like was about the way you were playing football, and go be more specific about bolting the pocket too quick to make a big run, or what?
Yeah, I mean, Skip, it was a lot of downs that I wish I could have had back, a lot of pass attempts that I wish would have been a different outcome, a lot of plays that was called that I wish would have been different. And you can point the finger, you can blame a lot of people. At the end of the day, I always blame myself. And, I was a very tough critic on myself, but when it came to the public, sometimes they didn't know what they was talking about. When it came to media sources and certain people who probably just had a personal vendetta against me, I felt like they were very inaccurate. So I took it upon myself to defend myself at times, and maybe I didn't say the right things, or it made me go into a shell and not want to deal with these people. So now you start to look like, you just don't care, and then you start getting tagged and labeled and scrutinized even more, and it just gets out of control. And once it gets to a point where you have no control over it, you got to let go and just do your job, man. And that's all I ever tried to do. But it was very disturbing at times, and it was very heartbreaking. But I understood at the quarterback position, this is what you have to deal with. So you got to man up and deal with it.
Mike, do you look back and say, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't have come, because you had the cornrows, you had the do-rag, you had the oversized T-shirt, you had the big chains hanging out. Do you look back and say, you know what? That might have caused people to look at me a certain way and judge me a certain way. There's like, this is not very CEO-like. This is not very quarterbackish, because you was really the first guy. What you did to the NFL is what Allen Iverson did to the NBA. Allen Iverson was showing up with oversized T-shirt, big jeans, do-rags, and cornrows, and people and they changed the rules. They changed the rules in the NBA. They didn't do that for the NFL, but do you think that, looking back at it, maybe I should have done some things differently?
Absolutely, Shannon. Let me tell you this. I grew up 4 blocks away from Allen Iverson. He was 4 years older than me. He went to the NBA, and we looked at that as something that was so monumental. My dreams of following his footsteps started when I went to Virginia Tech. And everything that guy did, everything he did, I marveled. Everything he did, I wanted to patent. And I wanted to duplicate. And, you know, I could care less about who thought or what people thought or what people were thinking. And when I got to Atlanta and I started to, you know, dress a certain way and I started to just be myself, I wanted to be like Allen. And, you know, I didn't understand at the time that it looked different. You know, it wasn't the ideal way to dress. And, you know, now that I look back on it, you know, it disturbs me, but I'm appreciative of the fact that I did it my way, and I did it in a way where, you know, I think a lot of kids can learn from it. And I don't think it's really a big deal anymore. I think fashion is something that people pay attention to and is very trendy. And I will say this, Arthur Blank came to me when I was growing my braids out, and he told me he thought it looked good. He thought it was a cool look. He didn't care. You know, but that was my guy. That was my man. It didn't come from, you know, outside sources. You know, he gave me the blessing. And not saying he said he thought it was, you know, the right thing to do, or he cared nothing about me growing my hair. It was about my play on the field, and I respected that more than anything.
So, Michael, I told my man across the table, Shannon, earlier in the show, it's not like Cam Newton is the first black quarterback. Obviously, we brought up Marlon Briscoe, Denver, 1969, first to start a game in the modern era. We can go all the way back to Fritz Pollard, 1923, was a black quarterback. And I counted last night, 98 black quarterbacks have started games in the National Football League in the modern era. It's not maybe great, but it's not bad. I don't think black quarterbacks have been routinely discriminated against in the draft, because there have been 23 black quarterbacks taken in the first round. 5 went first overall, including obviously you. So we come back to Cam. What's different about Cam? Well, he shattered a new mold. Nobody, black or white, has celebrated as a quarterback quite like Cam has. Is it fair to say that?
Yeah,
I think it is.
Quarterback position, no.
Right, with the Superman, with the dab. And again, in 2015, America loved it because they were 15-1 on the way to the Super Bowl. But I told Shannon, in the end, it has been a little shocking to me that Cam didn't get a job with the Chargers, who I thought just desperately needed him to sell tickets to their brand new $1 billion stadium, or to Jacksonville, or to Chicago. We could go on and on. And if there is anything subliminally operating still in this league, there are a lot of older white men making the decisions. And maybe it's not a flat-out racist mindset that they have, but it's what I call an old-fashioned white mindset, that at that position, the most sacred position in pro football, you have to act a certain way. And Cam does not.
No.
So as long as he was going 15-1, okay, we're okay with that. But he's, over the last 4 years, 23-23 as a starter. Well, now you haven't bought any insurance with those older white, old-fashioned decision makers who probably were raised racist by their parents, and maybe they're not racist now, but they have a white mindset of that's how that position is supposed to be played. And that's how you're supposed to act at that position. And when he does not, when he posts his Instagram posts that can be a little out there sometimes, I think the white decision makers say, well, I don't know. I'm not sure I'm going to go there with Cam just yet.
It's only 32 teams in the National Football League. And it's only 32 quarterbacks that can represent their team on Sundays. And I think for the most part, where it all starts is your production. This league is a what have you done for me lately league, and that's never going to change. In terms of attitudes and in terms of maturity level, that'll always be scrutinized. White, black, or indifferent, you'll always be, judged based on how, you treat the guys around you. If you're a leader within the locker room, if you're a leader on the field, how you treat, the the guys in the upper management, you know, how you treat the scouts, how you treat the ball boys, how you treat people when you're out in the community, you know, how you carry yourself, 24 hours out the day. That's what it's going to come down to, black, white, and indifferent at the quarterback position. And look, that's how I carried it. That's how I made my mark in the National Football League. Look, you respect me, I respect you. You respect my boundaries, I respect yours. And we don't have to take it anywhere no further than that. Leave it right there. And that's why I stood. Look, regardless of my color, I never cared. Treat me fair, I treat you fair.
Well, Nathan Peterman and Chase Daniels must be treating everybody really, really well, because they couldn't play dead in a horror movie, and they got making more money than Cam Newton. That's all I'm gonna say about that, Vic.
Cam's gonna get his money, man. I didn't expect Cam to make a lot of money. I mean, Shannon, be honest. Did you expect Cam to get a 10-year contract?
No.
10-year deal?
I expected him to get like $8-9 million. I ain't expecting him to get $500,000.
Yeah, I'm with you.
You got to go work for it. Let me tell you, my first contract was only $1 million and had an option for $5 million. You know what I did, Shannon? I went and got that $5 million. And after that, I went and got some more.
Mike, think about how long ago that's been. That's been 12, 13 years. And you got making $450,000 more in guaranteed money than what Cam got.
And Shannon, that's why I was saying, coming off that injury, he got to show that he can still whip it. He got to show that he can still run it. He got to show that he can still. And look, I would tell Cam the same thing if I talked to him today. Cam, you have to go show and prove. Sky's the limit for you. It's right there in front of you. And he got to be excited about that. He got to be hungry. And according to his videos and what he done posted and what he's been showing, let's sit back and watch what happened.
Thank you for watching. You can subscribe here to get the latest from the show, and be sure to check out more of the best clips from Undisputed, or go watch a few other segments from our other shows on FS1.